Hello, this is the start of a new series about Mercury through the houses, and I thought we'd just talk about Mercury a little bit first and get to know what it actually indicates. So, in the natural zodiac, Mercury rules uh, third house and sixth house, Gemini and Virgo. So they're both of them are actually dual houses. One is air sign, Gemini. The other one is an earth sign, which is Virgo. So they're both very, very important houses. They're both Upachaya houses, which means they're big time, and once you start working with them, they start to get better. And this is really very much indicative of what Mercury is, because Sun is the king, Moon is the queen, and this is their son, their child. So there is, wherever we have in our charts Mercury, we are slightly immature about it, because obviously this is about young children, kids, youth, adolescents, students. So this is all very much about the process of growing and things in wherever. Then once we apply ourselves, things get better. So there is a naivety about the house that Mercury resides in our chart. So I thought we'd just have a look and just see, what kind of things are indications for Mercury. So Mercury is obviously communication, because it rules the third house of natural zodiac. So you're born in the first, in the second one, obviously you're with family, you start to speak. And then third house is you start to move, express yourself, communicate what your needs are. So it's very much about self-expression, and you start using your hands and gestures. So as a baby, you see that they know what it is to say goodbye. They just, if they don't like something, they can use their hands and just like push the food away if they don't want to. So it's very much about like learning to let the others how you are feeling, and that actually never leaves you. And we know, all of us in life, that people who have the most fulfilling lives and relationships are the people who can actually express themselves fully, let the people know they kind of know, they know their own boundaries. They just know how, when things doesn't sound right, they can just communicate it. And those are friends and family members that we respect most, because we know that if they don't want to do anything, they can't be persuaded really, and they know themselves, they know their mind. Sometimes they're a little bit willful, but nonetheless, though, it's not a bad thing. So it actually rules Mercury rules friends, siblings, communication, any form of communication, rules the arts, rules things like intellect. I think Sun is intelligence and Mars is logic, but Mercury is practical and intellectual, and that's, I think, one of the things that Sage Gemini says about the sixth house, is that it's an important sign of the zodiac, because it's like literally how you get by day to day, how you manage yourself, manage your life, manage your money. Without a good Mercury, people can hoard, people can't, they just cannot, they become like victims of their own weakness, if you like, in relationships, in jobs, etc., where they can't express themselves, and people think that they're okay with the status quo, and then there's just misunderstanding going on there. So it is a very, very important thing. But obviously, both third and sixth house, there are Upachaya houses, so they do get better with time. But generally speaking, because it rules friends, neighbours, siblings, and your colleagues as well, so it's literally is how we kind of interact with people, friendships, associates, those kind of things are all very mercurial things. Mercury rules currency, stock exchange, stock market. It any kind of work which is paperwork, like clerical work, learning, students, schools, any form of travel, moving around, exercise, being active, being out and about, hobbies and interests. I mean, it's such an important planet. Jobs to do with computer as well, so any form of technology, mobile phones, computers, satellite dishes, anything like that is all to do with graphic design, marketing, visual arts generally, things you make with your hands, any form of talents and skills, courses that you do to learn things that then they can apply to your life. All of those are to do with your third house, which is all to do with Mercury. So Mercury is siblings, and obviously in the third house, it's also your will and your bravery as well, because this is when you've been born, you start to talk, then you start to express yourself, and you start to become brave. This is probably the time when your brother or sister, younger or older brother and sister, they come and take your toy away, and you have to fight for your toy, because this is like, no, this is mine. So you have to be brave and tell the person no, set boundaries and allow them, or if they do something wrong, you kind of brave it and say, don't do it, don't touch my toy, don't eat my sweets, things like that. So it's that kind of thing as well. It says also it rules fast food, because it's a fast moving planet, and so this is when you meet up with friends, go for a cafe, go to their coffee shop, have a coffee, and maybe an express sort of food like sandwiches and pizza. All those sort of takeaway foods, fast foods, are all ruled by Mercury. So, and it's obviously travel, but short distance travel is ruled by Mercury. And so this is the reason why when you're actually working, because Mercury likes to be busy, and is curious as a planet. So when you actually get really stuck on a project, it's really good to start moving. Just go for a short walk or make yourself a drink and just move around a little bit, and that kind of helps Mercury, develop things. It's strong in the first house, so it gets directional strength in the first house. But it also means that in the first house there is things that needs to be developed, because wherever Mercury is in our chart, that's where we are a little bit young about it, a bit naive and immature maybe even about it, because we don't really, it's a young thing, it's a young planet, and it needs to develop over time, and things just get better with time. However, in the first house, it will always have that real focus. From there, it will be aspecting your seventh house, so it indicates that you want to be with somebody, because Mercury also rules games and having fun, doing fun things, comedy, being comedic, jokes, things like that. So it likes a bit of banter. And so when it's aspect in the seventh house, you want to be with somebody who maybe was your friend, you can be friendly with, you can chat to, you can have a laugh with, and do like fun things together, like go to dance classes together, or you go to, I don't know, go to walking groups, or just kind of interact, go to the cinema together, travel together quite a lot. They like that. They like somebody who's active. They go maybe to hikes and go skiing together and things like that. So these will be very important to them. And it also rules kind of interaction in terms of business and commerce. It's all ruled by by Mercury as well. Mercury does make the person, particularly if it's strong in their chart, multi-talented, because they want to know a little bit about everything. And you find that when you have Mercury Dasha or Mahadasha, as Mahadasha or the Subdasha, Antardasha, you actually get interested in all forms of different things. If it falls like in your, because it's data and information, and particularly if it falls in your 8th house during a Dasha, you want to do research to gain more information. You're just hungry for information. And it rules as a planet, obviously 3rd house rules your hands, your arms and shoulders, and in the 6th house rules your digestive system. And so, and the Mercury in the first house or anything like that will actually, you also kind of notice that he has got third and sixth house indications as well, but obviously in different houses that house indications will come into it as well. So Mercury does really well obviously in Gemini because it rules Gemini, and it also rules Virgo. Virgo is not just own house, but at 15 degrees is actually also the exaltation degree of Mercury. And from 15 to 20 degrees, it's actually, I probably say the rest of it, it's like more Trachona sign, which means like the head office of very comfortable there. And it also is debilitated in Pisces. And obviously, you know, Mercury is friendly with the Sun, Venus and Saturn and Rahu, Ketu. But it very much struggles with Jupiter and also with Mars. These are the two planets that are not good with for Mercury. Mercury does, if it is close to Saturn, it will have issues because obviously it means that it develops even later. There's a shyness about it, has difficulty expressing itself, and there's always like, particularly because it is also a planet that's it's an earthy planet, even though it rules an air sign and an earth sign, but generally speaking it is an earthy sign. It likes material things, and so when it is in earthy signs, it can have a jealousy issue as well, because it is the green-eyed thing as well, you know, because it's immature about things, so it can have like those things as well. So so generally speaking though, if it is in an earthy sign or in earthy planet nakshatras, person has got to really work in order to move forward, not to actually be hung up on what other people have or what other people did, and actually just free themselves of all that and then just move themselves forward. Because when you work with Mercury really well, Mercury gives you a lot of things in life because it's a fun planet, and why wouldn't you want to have all the fun in your life? So, and obviously this is going to be about a sort of like a Mercury that's not in conjunction or aspected by any planets. I'm just going to give you the purest form, and it naturally also rules the skin and rules respiratory system and also your nervous system and allergies. So you often find when it is either in transit or in a dasha, or if in your chart naturally is actually in, say, in Jupiter sign or in Mars signs. In Mars, it will give you inflammation of the skin, so you have to really kind of, as with anything, it gets better with time. You know, because Mars is impulsive, and obviously this is Mercury's planet of speech, so it can give you reactive, impulsive speech. You say things without thinking, because that's what Mars does. You know, sort of agitates Mercury, and that can happen with conjunction, aspect, or Mercury sitting in Mars's sign. So that can happen. That can happen the opposite as well if Mars is in Mercury signs too. When it is with Jupiter, or in Jupiter nakshatras, or in Jupiter signs, or Jupiter also in Mercury signs, they're opposites, and they really are very different agenda. So Mercury is a bit gossipy, and it's a little bit fickle because it's a planet of fast moving. It's young, and obviously, you know, Jupiter is wisdom, the wise one, the older one, you know. So and so there is like a gender issue there. So that can also, because also what happens with Jupiter expands everything as well. So you'll find that the person who has that, they can't stop talking. And sometimes even if it's happening in, like, say, for example, in transit, you can't help yourself but just like over talking. It's such a chatty, or if Rahu does the same thing, expands like the speech, but not in a bad way. But with Jupiter it does, because Jupiter just can't stop it, because it expands it. And Jupiter can be a little bit like what's the Jupiter is a little bit like I know best kind of thing. So it gives that kind of it projects that onto Mercury as well, so things come out like that. And sometimes it creates problems with the nervous system. And obviously because Jupiter rules liver, we can actually start having liver issues. So we have to be careful about those kind of things. Be just working on our planets, because remember, our planets are us. It's how we. So once you can actually work with wisdom with everything. But I really do think it's a wonderful, wonderful way to use your chart really well to your advantage. So. Obviously, because it rules your respiratory system, some of the remedies with Mercury are really easy. So I think Mercury always does better if you got afflicted Mercury, is to always be aware that you need to exercise, you need to be active, and you need to spend time with friends and cousins as well, because six houses, cousins and aunts and things like that. So. And you just want to be like, so do connect with people, do join groups if they are interested in cooking, do a cooking class, carpentry, things like that, because they can be very multi-talented. And it really does you good to do some breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, things like that, but particularly breathing, just learning to breathe. And because it rules the respiratory system, and that really, the oxygenation really helps your digestive system, because it rules the digestive system. And normally Mercury, sixth house Mercury has got issues, but if it's or sixth house or Mercury, or it gives you digestive issues. So you can have all those things like candida and Crohn's disease and things like that can occur because of that. So by oxygenating and slowing things down, it can really help. Just taking, using the best in best things in life. So just wanted to say also, so wherever Mercury is, it will also aspect 7 houses away only. That's the only time. And so what will happen is those areas of your life, you do well to share them with friends. And it kind of, because it's also a benefic planet, it really helps kind of have an approach with it that that things will improve. Mercury is the only planet that changes its nature according to the planets that it sits with. So if it's conjunct malefics like Rahu, Ketu, Sun, Mars or Saturn, it does become malefic. And also, so its nature can be a little bit negative. And also the other thing I wanted to say was that it's I only take 8 degrees away from the sun as a combustion, because it's a planet that is friendly with the sun and travels with the sun and Venus normally. So therefore, it can actually work really, really well with the sun, as long as within 8 degrees. Obviously, if it's retrograde, then you have to really kind of take maybe 10 degrees. But generally speaking, it does work okay with the sun. It gives good intelligence as long as both of them are ruling good houses for you. But yeah, so the house that they're in, they're definitely going to be, if it is on its own, then it's going to be really good. So anyway, that's about Mercury. Thank you. Mercury in the 3rd house. So Mercury, obviously, you've heard the introduction video. That's like the planet, the young planet. So this is the sign, and it's also Mercury is supposed to be the messenger as well of the universe. And there is obviously there's youth, and it's the youngster of all the planets, and therefore we are. It's obviously playful, and there's a little bit of a maturity about the whatever sign it's in, well, whatever house it is in our chart. So, and that gets better with time. And this is like the third house. So this will be like an upachaya house. So it will grow better with time. And that growth will be very much dependent on the sign it's in. And we're obviously discussing a Mercury that's got no malefic or benefic or any form of conjunction as such. So we're just discussing just this Mercury in the third house. So if it is being influenced by another planet, so you can just work it out how it will be. So third house is obviously a house of bravery. So you've been born and looked after by your family, and obviously now third house. So this is you getting to fight with your siblings for food or whatever it is, and yeah. So there's this like willfulness that you will kind of you want the stuff, you want like give me this, and you kind of like start expressing and using your speech to communicate and tell people about things. This is obviously a house of effort, so this is where you actually realise you're starting to move, so you start to actually think that in order to take a step forward I need to put effort into it. You're a baby trying to climb and crawl, and so you put in effort and energy into things. So just checking that my Wi-Fi is okay. And so this is like how you're communicating, you're becoming brave, you're putting effort into your life, and you become more dexterity aware, like you can hold things, you can manipulate things, you can make things work, you can break things, that kind of stuff. And so Mercury is obviously rules the third natural zodiac sign, so it is quite comfortable in the third house. And we discussed on my second Mercury in the second house how it's second house is speech, third house is your expression of speech. So you could be like, if they're connected with each other, you could have a nice singing voice, or nice voice. Particularly Mercury could be a youthful voice too, because it's a young planet, So anyway, this also it shows us how good we are at communication, depending on the sign. So as you know, Mercury is friendly with Rahu and Ketu, Venus, Sun, and Saturn, but it definitely doesn't do well with Jupiter and Mars, so they can actually afflict Mercury in that sense. But everything has got its own thing, so they give it a different flavor, because Mars will be somebody who would be like direct and to the point. Actually, Sun can give you that as well. Sun sign can give you but Sun gives you like authoritative voice. So like for Gemini ascendant, if Mercury is that they got like Mercury in the third house in Leo, it will give you that authoritative voice. With Mars will be very direct. Mars is not going to care about dressing anything up. It's there to do a job. It's a soldier, that needs to be done. So they're not going to dress it up, But whereas if it goes into like a Venus house, how they communicate will be gentle, will be caring. They don't want to rock the boat with anyone. If it's with Mars, if Mercury is in the third house, like say Gemini, it'll be like playful. They can be a little bit of like tricksters. They can make you laugh because they can be a bit comedic as well. So every house has got a little bit of flavour that every sign gives it a bit of flavour. In signs of Jupiter, they can just talk forever, because obviously Jupiter will be like expanding everything. And I have friends like that. It's just amazing. Jupiter in the third house, like woohoo! It's really they make really, particularly if it's in good condition, and also if certain signs like Sagittarius, if Jupiter is in the third house in Sagittarius, they can win any argument really, really well. Whoa, you don't want to argue with that. So they are going to be like, oh, yeah, they know how to actually really, really come at you with, particularly if they got, you know, like Mars is strong, Mercury is strong, bang, 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 you know, you just don't go there. Don't go there. So yeah, it's, you learn so much about astrology, and I think this is really good because if we find out, like our Mercury, for example, is got like, obviously Rahu is the same. Rahu can, it's a planet of speech with Rahu. Rahu is a trickster, so they can tell little fibs, you know, they can manipulate the situation. So this could be good if they, like, for example, if you're trying to trick your brother and sister to give you more sweets or something like that, you know, they can just like really control, you know, because Mercury is planet of intellect. It's not going to be silly, you know, it's going to know what it wants in a sense. So yeah, let's have a look at things that, you know, so basically this is like communication skills, how we learn, how we think and thinking process, how we can actually put a message and then communicate it to different people, how we put it across, if you like. So as we just talked earlier, that's, you can see how the person will, you know, depending on the sign, how they can do it, or the aspects. So you can put them together to get a flavour of that. And this is also indicative of the type of friends that you attract, neighbours and siblings, and how you are with co-workers and things, you know. And it's a friendly planet, so he likes to be chatting, he likes to be friendly, you know, he likes to be busy. You know, this is a multitasker of the, you know, our planet of multitasking, third house of, you know, doing things, being busy. And so this is also data and information and numbers. So this will be like how you see how the person learns. So do they learn visually? Do they learn like through theory and reading? So you can actually analyze that, you know, like third house, if it is, for example, Virgo, they will be detailed, they can read it. But if it is going to be like more of, say, for example, say Venusian sign, then it is more likely that they want to actually look at it like in a visual way. And so this is and hobbies and interests as well. So these people like to get things, you know, just that they like lots of information. So if they move around anywhere, you know, they've got their mobile phones on all the time. So these people literally, if they need clarification on anything, they really need to have points of the day that they actually go completely information free and just let their minds rest, because that just really gets the mind very busy, and it would be difficult for them to switch off, particularly if it's not, you know, if it's got afflictions there as well. And so it is it's good for calculations, and this person will be a quick thinker too, because, you know, this is a planet, it's a fast moving planet, you know, obviously dependent on the sign, because Mercury, if it is in Saturn signs, the thinking process will not be as fast, and the process of talking will not be as fast if it's the third house. Say, for example, for Sagittarius ascendant, or even for Scorpio ascendant, their third house is ruled by Saturn, you know, Saturn sign. So if Mercury is in there, then it's going to be talking differently to somebody who's, for example, their third house for Aquarius ascendant is, if Mercury was in Aries, will be completely different. So you can imagine how things are in that sense. And they're very opportunistic. So particularly if it's a sign that's like, you know, good for Mercury, because they see the opportunity and they go for it. And they can make things. They'll be very good at, you know, I mean, if all is supportive in the chart, they can make things. They can see things and do it. You know, they got that level of intellect and practicality about them. They'll be really good at writing and speeches, PowerPoints, graphic design, because after all, this is artistic sign. It's a visual sign as well, so they can communicate things really well that way too. And if their 10th lord is also has an influence on the third house, there can be inspirational talkers. They could be, like, for example, broadcasters or journalists, writers, things like that. So very they're very aware, if you like, and they'd be really very much into technology, social media, and they can also they love entertainment, information, traveling, doing things. You know, they just moving, stuff like that. And from there, obviously, it's a benefic planet, so it will be aspecting ninth houses from it. So this will sort of encourage the whole sort of higher education, wisdom, learning higher knowledge, and travel again. You know, so it'd be like longer distance travel. So they will enjoy that. They will gain a lot from traveling and learning and things like that. So that's it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you very much for supporting me. Thank you.